Hello, everyone. Um, First of all, thank you so much to Haris, Eddie, and the rest of the organization for inviting me. It's such an honor to be here. It's actually my first time in Sarajevo in 9 years, so for me it feels like reconnecting to the mothership in a way. So today we're going to talk about communities. What we're doing here at the foundation is building a community, right? And what I'm doing as a game developer is also building a community, but within games. And building a community is not an easy feat. I'm sure that Eddie and the rest of the gang that run the ship understand that and have realized that over the years. Let's see if I can make this work proper. Does it work? Yeah, there we go. So just talking briefly about myself, my name is Almir Listo. My family's from Mostar originally, but I grew up in Sweden. I'm the head of community and the brand director at Starbreeze Entertainment. And for the past 12 years, I worked at the same studio, Starbreeze Entertainment, which is actually one of the oldest studios in Europe. It was founded in 1998, and ever since we've been making games. Maybe you've played some of the games over the years. Yesterday, another Almir asked people in the audience who are gamers, so I know a lot of you are gamers, but we made games like Chronicles of Riddick, The Darkness, and the PAYDAY series that I'm going to talk a lot about today. I've worked both in development as a producer on PAYDAY: The Heist and PAYDAY 2, and for the past 9 years I've been on the publishing side, working with published titles that we're doing. So, in 2011, Starbreeze released, actually Overkill, but then we were acquired by Starbreeze. I originally started at Overkill, which was an indie studio. That was where we made PAYDAY: The Heist originally. Then we were acquired by Starbreeze, which was a bigger company, and we joined them. PAYDAY: The Heist was the first game in a series, our own created IP. If you have never played PAYDAY, you are essentially a group of 4 bank robbers who are looking to rob banks around the world. And you play as either Dallas, Hoxton, Wolf, or Chains. And PAYDAY: The Heist was the first step in the PAYDAY saga. We sold a few 100,000 copies of the game, which was a huge success at the time. But what really started it all was PAYDAY 2. PAYDAY 2 was a game I worked on as a developer, as a producer. It features Dallas, Houston, Chains, and Wolf. And Houston was a new character that we created. And the funny thing about that is when we released PAYDAY 2, because at that time we had a few 100,000 fans in the global gaming community, a lot of them got very angry with us because they asked, where is Hoxton, our favorite British robber? Because there are 3 Americans and 1 Brit, right? And suddenly there was a new guy called Houston. He was wearing the same mask, the one on the right there with the pink patterns, but it was a different voice actor. And I remember reading online, because I work with our social media accounts on Reddit and so on, and I communicate with our fans. And I remember reading on the subreddit, someone writing, maybe Hoxton is in jail. And we as developers were like, yes, that's exactly what happened. Hoxton is in jail. So what we did was that we created a storyline where the players had to break Hoxton out of jail in order to get him back into the gang. But he couldn't wear this mask, because that was taken by Houston, another character, right? So we created a new mask for him. And the point I want to make by that is it's so important to take in the feedback from the community, from your players, from the people around you. And if you can do that and translate that into part of your game design, that's when magic really, really happens. PAYDAY 2, in just a month, sold over 1.6 million units. And actually, even though Starbreeze has been making games since 1998, we had never made any money on the games we're making. They were always more expensive to make than the money we brought in. But with PAYDAY 2, we recouped 2 decades of losses in just 1 month. That is how successful the game was for us at launch. And we've been working on this game as a live service game, which means that you continue to develop the game after you release it, for 10 years. We just now this August wrapped up development. Then, of course, PAYDAY 3. The trilogy is done now, right? PAYDAY 3 was a game we released September this year, so it's been an incredibly busy year for us at the studio. working on making this game happen. It features 6 characters: Hoxton, Wolf, Chains, Dallas, Joy, and Pearl. And the game is set in New York City. Payday 2 was set in Washington, D.C., so you did a little bit of political crime and stuff like this. But with Payday 3, the gang has now gone to New York City. And for the first time, we also released it simultaneously on all platforms, so PC for Steam and Epic Game Store, as well as Xbox and PlayStation. And I'm going to talk about the highs and lows of game development, right? The hype for this game was so big because over the years we've sold millions and millions of units of Payday 2. So the expectation among our fans was huge for this title. And when the game launched, the servers didn't work, which meant that nobody could play it. So everyone bought it, but they couldn't play it. So that created a ton of frustration and anger among the players. Rightfully so, right? Because when you buy something, whether it's a game or something else, you expect it to work. But in our case, it didn't. And we worked our hardest, the development team, in order to make it work over those few days. But people quickly lose interest, right? So instead of having a easy downhill relationship with the community after launch, we instead have this uphill battle that we have to climb in order to get the community back on our side. And that's what we're currently doing at the studio, making sure that the community regains their trust with us, right? I'm going to talk more about this during the presentation. I mentioned that I work with publishing. Maybe some of you have played this game, I'm not sure. It's a horror game called Dead by Daylight. It is made by a Canadian studio called Behavior Interactive, which is actually the oldest game studio in Canada. They were founded in 1992, and ever since they were founded, they had never created their own IP, which means that they have always told other people's stories, bought licenses from other people and told their stories. But with Dead by Daylight, it was their first real attempt to create their own story and their own IP. So we published this game with the studio back today. We believed in them. They showed us their prototype. It was amazing. If you don't know what the game is about, it's essentially you play any horror movie you've ever seen. So there is one killer and 4 victims, and the victims have to escape the killer. It became a huge success, and to this day is still very successful. A few years after we launched the game together with Behavior, we let them buy the rights back to their own IP, which is something we as a studio at the time really believed in, that developers need to be in control of their own IPs. That way they can be in control of their own future and decide themselves what they want to do. Hugely proud over what they've accomplished over the years. So, creating a deeper connection to the community. Every game has a community. Communities come in different shapes and sizes. And I mean, whether you like it or not as a game developer, you will have a community because the community is essentially your fans, the people that play the game. And today, more than ever, people join each other online, whether it's on Reddit, on X, or Instagram, or elsewhere to talk about your games. Not all communities are the same, however, but the way we work with them in order to create magic is the same. Creating a deeper bond between us as developer and the community is key. There we go. So when we work with building communities, we think about 5 things really. 5 different content types. So, because in my capacity as head of community, I work a lot with social media. It's like I'm plugged into the matrix all the time, right? Always on TikTok, on Twitter, and elsewhere. So we try to, what we do is we do 5 different things. We promote our game and our community, or whatever we want to say. We educate the players, whether it's about something new in the game or about a bug that we're fixing or something else. We inspire through our Twitter account. Not only do we joke about things and create memes and so on, but we actually inspire our community. I've seen people in our community getting married as a consequence of playing our games, improving their life, mental health, and things like that, which is incredible, right? The power that games have over the people that play them. We also entertain, of course, a lot, not only with the games that we allow people to play, but also through our communication, which is so important, that you communicate with your fans and that you reply to them individually. So for example, if you push out a tweet from your game account, interact with your fans, reply to every single one of them, follow them back, because there is no greater feeling for a fan than when an official account follows them. They go like, oh my God, I got a follow from my favorite game. It's hugely important, right? And we engage. We have a very, very high engagement rate with our community that also translates into purchases, because ultimately the community are your consumers. They are the people that want to buy your game and enjoy the experiences. Let's see here. There we go. So we've actually created the largest gaming community in the world. Since 2013, when PAYDAY 2 released, the community has grown to over 8 million people, which is like what? Twice the population of Bosnia today, with over 1 billion impressions made, which is unbelievable to me. We have a subreddit, which has over 280,000 members, which is like a large city. Twitter account with 375K, and our TikTok has over 260,000 followers, right? And this creates a huge influx, and essentially you could argue PAYDAY has become part of popular culture, which is fascinating to be a part of. And we do this by having an in-house community team that nurtures the relationship with the fans. We never allow anyone else to do that for us. We want to do that ourselves, right? And we're not a huge team. It's not like we're 20 people doing this. It's just 2 of us, myself and my colleague Elizabeth, who do handle the community and talk with them. So it is possible, no matter the size of your studio or your organization, to interact with your community, as long as you have colleagues that you believe in and that you give the responsibility to do these things for you. The interesting thing also with the subreddit is that it's like a Greek city-state. We don't own it, like with TikTok and Twitter, we own the communication. But with the subreddit, the community themselves own the platform, which allows them a free arena to communicate freely. So for example, when we've screwed up, which we've done numerous times over the years, unfortunately, but thankfully we've drawn a lot of learnings because of that. The subreddit allows them a free place where they can talk about that freely without feeling that we are moderating them or behaving like in an authoritarian way. So, I talked about PAYDAY 2 being a live service game. This has been very important for us and a huge part of our history as a studio. The past 10 years, we've actively continued development on the game, creating over 200 updates, which is an amazing number for me. Introducing original content, heists, weapons, characters, but also over 30 collaborations with different IPs, whether it's movies or games. And I'm going to walk you through a few of them that we've done over the years. So, the first one, I don't know if you recognize this character. His name is Jacket. He is from a game called Hotline Miami, which is made in Gothenburg in Sweden, where I grew up in Scandinavia. And I know the developers originally, and I reached out to them in 2014 saying, hey, we love your game, but it looks like this, right? And PAYDAY is in 3D. We would love to take Jacket and put him into PAYDAY. So ultimately, we translated that 2D character into that 3D character. And the interesting thing is, in their game, the character has no voice. They don't speak. So we had a difficult situation that we had to manage, because in our game, all our characters speak. They shout at police, they shout at each other, they shout at civilians, and so on. So what we did was that we gave him a tape recorder that you can see there in his left hand, and we recorded 5 different voice actors who talk through the tape recorder, right? So it's a super special character. And because he, in the game, is a psychopath, it makes sense. We also collaborated with John Wick. We've done a ton of movie collaborations over the years with Lionsgate, who has been a great partner for us. The interesting thing with John Wick is that when the first movie came out in 2014, John Wick was available in PAYDAY before the movie got released. So a few days before the movie launched, you could already play as Keanu Reeves' John Wick, the Baba Yaga, in PAYDAY 2. And this was a very unique collaboration at the time, taking a film character, putting it into a video game before the movie had even been released. And 10 years later, we have John Wick 4. It's become a huge franchise. Keanu Reeves, who I had the pleasure of meeting a few years back, has become, the most lovable human on the planet, I think. And I can confirm he is as kind in reality as he seems to be. This was an amazing collab for us and started a host of different movie collaborations that we did over the years. We've also done a lot of community events. So what a community event is that it's an event that doesn't necessarily have a monetary goal. The goal isn't to sell them something. It's just to interact with your players, to create a fun environment, a fun situation. And what we did in 2016 was that the bank robbers that you play as, of course, they have to have a safe house. They have to have some place that they live together, right? But the first safe house we created when we launched the game, it wasn't that good. So what we did in 2016, was that we created a new safe house. But you can't just create the safe house and say, here's a new safe house. You need to tie it into a story, into a narrative. So what we did was that we said that Hoxton, the British robber, he got tired of the old safe house. So he burned it down. And what he did was he built a new one for the gang. But he couldn't do it himself. So he called his butler, because he's from a rich British family, we agreed. And his butler is, of course, John Cleese, that we worked with for this. And I'm not sure if you're Monty Python fans, but I am. So having the pleasure to work with John Cleese, bringing him into our game as a butler, was an amazing experience. And this narrative was so fun for our community. They enjoyed it in so many ways, laughing about this and so on. And talking about stuff that we've done bad, in 2015, we released a microtransaction system in Payday 2 that the community hated. We had to go back on it. We had to apologize to our community. And at the end of the trailer, where we introduce John Cleese's butler, he says at the end of it, those microtransactions wasn't such a good idea now, was it? And that single line, those few seconds at the end of a trailer, made the community love it, right? And so that it's so important to be able to joke about yourself and have that self-awareness. It's not a bad thing to admit mistakes. It's not a bad thing to say you're sorry, even when you have a company like ours, when we're trying to create a product for people to enjoy. On the contrary, it's a vital part of the process. We also have introduced myself as a character in the game, not because I said so, because our developing team was like, hey, we should put Almir into the game, and I was like, yeah, sure. So we did a live action trailer where I play Hayruddin, which is my character, and Hayruddin is obviously the inspiration from Stari Most in Mostar, the architect behind the bridge, right? His name was Hayruddin, and that's why I took that name for this character. And in Breakfast in Tijuana, you have to free Hayruddin from Tijuana prison. So it's a prison break. And this was a lot of fun for us to do. And the reason I want to share this with you is that being a part of what you do, showing your faces and creating these ambassadors like Elizabeth and I am for our community is a super important thing in order to get a closer relationship with your players, because ultimately that's what it's all about, getting as close to your community as physically possible. I don't know, now we'll do some interaction. How many here have seen the movie, what's it called? Is it American Psycho with Christian Bale? Yeah, a lot of you. You remember the card scene? Yeah. So we did an April Fool's joke where we worked together with an influencer called Badger, and he recreated the card scene frame by frame. You can watch this on YouTube if you like after the show, but with our characters. And this obviously made our community laugh so hard. And again, we're not pushing a sales message. We're not trying to sell anyone a DLC or a new game. We're just having fun with the community. And we also allowed the community to create their own cards through a card generator on our website. So they could show their names and whatever else, right? And this was a really, really fun experience, working more tightly with influencers as well, who have become hugely influential, no pun intended, over the past few years. We also did something called the comically large spoon. So the same influencer I just mentioned, Badger, he made a joke in the Payday community about a comically large spoon. I don't know if you have seen that joke about the spoon. Two guys are in a kitchen, and there's one guy who says, you're gonna eat some ice cream? And he says, only a spoonful. And he brings out this huge spoon. And that's what we did with Payday. So the community bullied myself and the development team into adding this, and we added it as a part of the game. It makes absolutely no sense. A comically large spoon has nothing to do with bank robberies, but it's all a part of the fun of creating a community. We stream. I stream every week for the studio. I stream Heist with Almir. So I play the game, Payday 3 now, Payday 2, or whatever else we're doing, for 1 hour. And streaming and interacting with your community through different mediums and different platforms is hugely important for your continued success of the games you want to make. And what this has allowed me as well has created an even closer relationship with the community, being able to interact with them individually in chat, playing with them, creating memes when I screw up in game, because obviously I'm not as good at the game as many of our players who have spent thousands of hours in our games and are really, really good at heisting. We've done Halloween streams, and the reason why this is important, whether it's Halloween, April 1st, or the holidays, is because these holidays mean something to the community, to people around the world, right? And we want to be part of that and utilize those moments in order to create more fun for our players. So you can see me at the top left in our studio, heisting. I'm dressed out as the devil. It was very warm in that outfit. And we're just doing these events in order to joke around and have a good time with our community. But it's so important. Again, we're not selling anything when we're doing this. We're just interacting with our community, with our players, making sure they have a great time. And then I've also started streaming on my own this year, because I figured, I stream twice a week for the studio. Maybe I should just create my own account. So I created Almir Gaming, so you can follow me on Twitch if you like. And since June, in 3 weeks, I became an affiliate. I don't know if you know how Twitch works, but when you're an affiliate, you can start to earn money, ad revenue, and stuff like that. And then in 3 months, I became a Twitch partner, which was fantastic, right? A lot of fun. And I've already gotten over 13,000 followers from the community that interact with my channel as well. And why do I do that? It's because I want to get even closer to the community. Because the most hardcore fans come and join me, and maybe it isn't enough for them to just heist with me 2 hours a week. So by doing this, we're able to play even more every week, right? So there are so many ways to get closer to community, and I really want to underscore, be where they are, sure, but become what they are is even better. Try becoming an influencer. You don't need to become successful, but by doing so, by just checking it out and trying out the tools, you get much a better understanding of how influencer management work, how it feels to be a streamer, and so on. And it's taught me a lot over these past 6 months. And you can see there on the top left, bottom left corner, it's me sitting and with a white background and just a painting of Stari Most in Mostar. So, and people in chat, a lot of them Americans, go like, "What bridge is that?" And I have an opportunity to do a short pitch on why they should go to Mostar, right? So I'm doing my best to pitch Mostar for the global audience. Thank you. And this has taught me so much playing on my own with the community in this way, right? I've gotten friends, probably for life, people I've never met, players around the world that come to my stream every time I stream. They're tweeting at me right now at this conference going like, "When are you going to stream next?" So it creates this deeper bond with your players, which is hugely, hugely influential for your success. All right, a direct relationship with no middle hands. Over the years, we've always talked to our players directly, like I said previously. We never allow anyone else to act as a middleman. We own our success and our mistakes. And having that direct relationship with the community allows us to foster that strong bond. With them, creating a safe space for all of our community to prosper within. So I just want to share a bullet point list of learnings that I've gotten over the years, right? Because I've been doing community work for 12 years now, and it's taught me a ton of different things. So I just want to read them out real quick for you. Understand popular culture and use it. We're all fans of movies, books, games, whatever it might be. Use that to your advantage. Try to incorporate that into your game. See what the community likes and what they don't like, and try to joke around with them. understand your community and give them what they want. Players will often tell you what they want, and you should, if there is nothing else hindering you, act on that. There is no reason for you not to. If you do that, they get the feeling that you're listening to them, which you're actually doing then, and that creates an even stronger bond. Have the self-awareness to be able to joke about yourself. I mean, we work with games, right? But I would argue, no matter what industry you work with, having self-awareness and being able to joke about your mistakes is very important in order to be successful. See the value in celebrating common global events, whether it's Halloween, the holidays, or April 1st. I promise you, if you act on these, and if you're consistent creating these yearly events, the community will reward you for it. Have an ambassador who can face the community through the good and the bad. So have a face that represents your studio or your company. Is a risk for the company, but it's also an investment. And there is a trust between the individual, who is the ambassador, and the company in order to represent the studio in the best way possible. And I think this has played a very big part in the story and the success of PAYDAY over the years. Own up to things. It's okay to be sorry. And remember, if they're angry, they care. And I think this is one of the most vital learnings I've been taught over the years. When people are angry online, it's not just because they like to be angry. Nobody likes, well, maybe a few people do, but nobody likes to be just angry for no reason. The reason they're angry is because they care, because they've invested themselves into your game. It's a hugely important part of it. And remember, make the game available in many languages, also very important. And the game needs to support the community work. Your community is no better than your game is. Talking briefly about PAYDAY 3 that we just released this September. Let's see here. So this is our year one roadmap. So we just now released our first DLC called Syntax Error, and then we've got 3 more lined up. And when you do a live ops game and you have a community that joins that experience, you want to be able to share a roadmap beforehand so they can follow things, right? So they can know when they should be involved with the game. Oops. We've created legacy heists, and what that means is that since PAYDAY 2 has over 88 heists in it, PAYDAY 3 has, what is it now, 11? Yeah, it's 11, yeah. What we did was that 2 of those heists in PAYDAY 3 are called legacy heists, and they are heist levels from the PAYDAY 2 or PAYDAY the Heist that we have reimagined for PAYDAY 3. And on the left, we have Cook-Off, which is, again, forgive me, we are criminals in this game, right? Which is a heist where you cook meth in order to succeed. And on the right, we have Turbid Station, where you have to stealth among guards and try to steal stuff. And then the latest heist we released just a few days ago, this December, is called Syntax Error. And you can see Dallas, Pearl, Chains, and Joy here heisting in New York together, stealing a couple of expensive servers with their data in it. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is, 12 years with one game series, there are a ton of ups and downs during that period. And during all of it, there's one thing that I've really come to terms with, and it's that the only thing greater than the setbacks you have is the comeback. The community wants you to win, right? The community doesn't want you to lose as a developer. They want you to succeed. And that's why you have to push through even the most difficult situations and the difficult circumstances in order to go to the light at the end of the tunnel. This has been very important for us at different junctures over the years with the game development that we've done. And I always come back to this. It's been like a northern light for me. All right, and that's it. Thank you so much for listening. And now some questions, maybe, yeah?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the keynote. It was awesome. I enjoyed it so much. Now we have 15 minutes for questions, so please raise your hand if you want to ask some questions.
Okay. I guess you can hear me here?
Yeah, I can hear you, I think.
Hello,
yeah.
Maybe you can see me on your right? Hello,
on your right, yeah, I see you.
I'm a big guy, I think you can notice me. So, thanks for a wonderful keynote, very interesting to hear your perspective, and especially the scale of the products that you guys are developing, it's really interesting to get an insight into that level of work. I want to hear if you can maybe describe how does a life of a product manager or someone like that look like. So you're a community manager, you get a lot of feedback, I assume, and somehow that probably makes it to a person who kind of refines it and turns it into something that's implemented in the game. And I'm really wondering, how does that work?
Great question. Thank you so much. The community team that we have is one department in the studio, right? And we're a studio of roughly 150 developers. And in the team, the community department works closely with the publishing team and the development team in order to prioritize the things that we want to develop. So it's a back and forth, because the production team have their own priorities. They want to do this and that and so on. And then we as a community team come in and say, but the community wants this. So it's a constant discussion and a conversation internally at the studio in order to make those prioritizations the best way possible. It's not easy, it never is, but it's fun. And as long as you are trying to be as transparent with each other as possible within the studio, then you'll win eventually. Communication is key. There will be hiccups, you know, production will do something that we might not agree with and vice versa, but ultimately, as long as you continue working with each other, you'll get there. Yeah.
Okay, can we get a mic, another mic over there?
Hello. Thank you for the amazing presentation and obviously the amazing games you have made. In short, I have two questions. The first one is, as someone who might consider a career in game development, what are some pros and cons from your perspective? As a lot of the times I hear like it's a really underpaid job for the amount of the things you do. And the second question is, how do you balance community wants and the company goals? As you are obviously doing greatly on that front, you are always communicating with the community, but a lot of the large companies have large communities, and for example, if their communities wants A, they will do totally opposite and whole community will be angry. And I think that's the situation with a lot of companies. So that's about it.
I can start with your second question. Thank you so much. If you focus on making what the community wants, over time you have to be successful, because that will create happiness among them, and they are ultimately your consumers, your customers. So those things synergize, they go hand in hand. Sometimes the company goals are different for whatever reason, and you have to align internally, and it's never easy to navigate that. But with proper communication internally, you can do that. But keeping in mind that the community is ultimately your customer base. If you make them happy, then you'll succeed. And for your first question regarding becoming a game developer, I think it's great, and I think you should. It's a global scene. It's a global industry, and in different regions, game developers earn less. In other regions, they earn more. And if you become a good or a great game designer, you will have the opportunity to move around the world and get more experience. And I think, hopefully over time, even especially in Bosnia, the standards of salaries within game development and so on will only increase, because they've done that historically, whether it's Sweden, the USA, or elsewhere. So I absolutely think you should. And like I said, if you have great English skills, then you can work anywhere you'd like, if you'd like to move anywhere else and try to work.
Thank you.
Good day. Thank you for the nice presentation. My question is, how do you balance what the community wants and what is actually needed for the game? Because with full respect to all gamers, and I'm speaking as one of them, but most of them are really stupid and do not know what is good for the game. They are not game developers. They just want what they want. And how do you know what is actually good for the game?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, I'd just like to correct it. I don't think their gamers are stupid necessarily, but they don't have the knowledge that you do as a game developer, right? They don't understand necessarily how difficult some things might be to make. They say, well, why don't you just do this? It should be easy. And it's not, right? But they're passionate. And I think, again, you have to make that decision as a game developer. As a developer, you can't just do everything the community wants, because you as a game developer have to have your own identity and your own idea. I think in that scenario, your job is to make sure that you communicate about that properly, so they understand that. So it's a question of communication. Are you, for example, when we communicate, we use YouTube. We create dev diaries, we call them, which is essentially me and Elizabeth sitting in a couch, talking to the camera, explaining what we're doing and why we're doing that. And doing things like that helps the community understand the decisions that we make. Because even today, not every decision we make go home with the community. They disagree with some things that we do, and they agree with other things. So it is a question of communication, I would argue. And in the worst scenarios, they will absolutely not understand what you're doing, but you have to do it anyway. And that is your duty as a developer, to still commit and push through. Because hopefully, when you've done that change, they will understand and realize. But I think it's a question of communication. And even if you disagree, you can still tell the community, we hear you, but we need to do it this way because we believe in it, or we have these reasons, A, B, C, that we have to do them.